Hi, I'm Maria Villamizar, and welcome to the third season of Viva London. Today, we're going to discuss about the second-class citizenship and all the implications in our immigrant community. So please stay tuned.
Hello everyone, welcome to your show Viva London on its third season. My name is Laura Medina and I'm going to be your TV host today.
Hi, I'm Juliana, and in this information space, you will learn interesting topics for you and your family.
And I am Julieta Jimenez, and this is Viva London.
Juliana, tell our viewers where we are filming and who our DJ is.
Absolutely, we are at Che Resto Bar and our DJ is DJ Miami.
Welcome to Viva London, because London has it all.
Soy Julieta Jimenez y estás viendo Viva London porque London lo tiene todo.
As a result of a new law denominated Bill 24, dual citizenship and people who have immigrated to Canada can have their citizenship taken away where others Canadians cannot. Under this law, the only Canadians who can never lose their citizenship are those born in Canada who cannot have another nationality. On the other hand, Canadians with another nationality or those who are eligible to obtain another nationality now have a second-class citizenship.
Today in our set, we have the pleasure of having Ed Corrigan, who is an immigration lawyer who is certified in immigration and citizenship. He's one of the only 14 in Ontario, and he's here in our set today, and we're going to learn a lot of things. So welcome to our show.
My pleasure to be here.
Okay, very glad. And Ed, can you just tell us a little bit about what is to be a second-degree citizen or second-class citizen, which is what we've been hearing around?
Well, the Conservative government brought in actually two pieces of legislation. Back in 2009, they created a set of rules for people who are Canadian citizens, but if their children are born outside of Canada, that those people would be Canadians, but the children of those children, if they're born outside the country, would not have Canadian status. So that's one set of second-class citizens. Under Bill C-24, they created a variety of different ways that people could lose their citizenship status, whereby if they had committed certain crimes or treason, but treason is a very sort of nebulous concept. It's one that could be interpreted in different ways. Just because you're exercising your political rights and you're disputing a policy of the government, does that mean you're committing treason, or are you being democratic, and are those rights protected under the charter? So there's an ambiguity there, a confusion. The other way is that if you were convicted or charged or accused of certain things, if you had the ability to either dual nationality, they could take away your Canadian nationality, or if you were able to acquire another nationality, for example, if you were Jewish, you could theoretically become a citizen of Israel under the law of return, or someone like myself, who is my parents are both Irish and British background. Technically, I could acquire British citizenship or Irish citizenship. Therefore, they could, arguably remove my Canadian status and deport me from the country, even though I don't have Irish or British citizenship at the present time.
Sorry there. Just to make it clear to our viewers, so with this Bill C-24 that has been introduced in this year, 2015.
It's now passed in law.
It's a law and it's been in effect now. pretty much anyone that can obtain a citizenship, any citizenship outside of Canada, is in danger of losing their Canadian citizen if they committed a treason but it's very unambiguous term. So pretty much anyone is exposed to it as long as you have that.
People from Colombia, people from Central America, South America, most of them have citizenship of that country. And then if they become a Canadian citizen, and then if they end up running afoul of the government and disputing them, for example, as I said, we have one day we're friends with a country, the next day we're not. You know, what happens? You know, we've had diplomatic relations with Cuba, but it's conceivable in the future that something would happen. And you know, one day the rebels are overthrowing the government. The next day, they're in power, and then the Sandinistas in Nicaragua, for example, come back. Is there going to be a dispute there? It's potential. I would say that technically, people who served in the German army in the Second World War, they're a great ally now. They have fought against Canada in a war. They could lose their status. Same thing for somebody from Italy who fought in the same war. Also, people who maybe fought in the Chinese army during the Korean War, when, example, American soldiers and British and Canadian soldiers showed up at the Chinese pushed them back. Technically, that was a police action, but it could be interpreted that those people would lose their status and have it revoked, even though they've been here for maybe 40 years and have children, wives, and everything else.
So we learned that people that live in Canada, you know, might lose their citizenship. What happened to the newcomers, people that are just arriving to Canada? Has this law changed something on their process of obtaining a
if they have citizenship from another country and they become Canadians, yes, it would still apply. Okay. But for a lot of newcomers, the Conservative government implemented a policy directive that they were going to start enforcing the vacation and revocation provisions that already exist in law but which have not been enforced before. So if somebody went back, let's say, to Colombia for a visit because they had a dying relative, they could in fact lose their protected person status and lose their permanent residence and be deported from the country.
And just to be clear, let's say a person that traveled, let's say 2 years ago, this person went back to Colombia, they had a protective status, they were able to re-enter the country, they are here working, doing their everyday thing as a Canadian, as a resident of this country. If the government goes, an immigration officer revisits their case, the status can be taken away? That's exactly what we're saying here.
And the government put a quota of just under 1,000 people that they're going to take their status. It's called, if you re-avail yourself of the country that you supposedly have a fear of persecution, therefore you've gone back home, they could pull your status. But even though it may be 10 years later, or even if you've just got a new passport from, let's say, the Colombian government so that you could travel elsewhere, they could say that that's re-availment, therefore you lose your protection of Canada, therefore you lose your permanent residence, therefore you could be deported.
So that is for residents. What about citizenship? Like, do they lose citizenship? They travel back to, let's say, Colombia?
If citizen, you're pretty safe, okay? I think there still could be a possibility, for example, because you're dual national, that they could revoke your citizenship, but under the vacation and provisions and the revocation provisions, I don't think they will do it. But I think it's arguable that the government actually could go after somebody, you know, who is in fact a citizen. I think it's unlikely, but I think under the law it is a possibility.
The law has everything open under the law. Now, we do want to hear what's happening on the street, so we got Julieta offside. So hi, Julieta, can you just tell us what's going on there?
Hi, I am Julieta Jimenez, and in Viva London, you will learn what Londoners know about the Second Class Citizenship.
People that they born here in Canada, they are first class, and the people that it doesn't born here, they want to put it on a second class level.
Yes, I believe that's where a person can have their citizenship revoked.
A second-class citizenship used to be in Canada, but last week I'm very happy they changed the law and everybody equal. Beautiful.
Hi, I'm Laura Medina, and you're watching Viva London, because London has it all.
Hi, this is Juliana Vaquero, and you're watching Viva London.
Hi, and thank you for having me in your show today. My name is Germán Gutierrez. I'm a professor with the School of Language and Liberal Studies at Fanshawe College. I'm also a journalist and a political activist since 2011. I believe that civic engagement, inclusion and civic engagement of a people depends on participation. Participation in all spheres of public and private life is what lead people to be part of a nation. And only when all citizens coming from all parts of the world include themselves and become politically engaged will they be part of that reality. Before addressing the consequences of the bill, let's address the major issue, and that is the nature of citizenship. What is citizenship? Citizenship is the most fundamental political right of a citizen. It is the platform upon which all other rights and freedoms of a person are guaranteed and established in a society. So the idea that citizenship is a privilege, much like a driver's license, debases and it weakens the idea of the character of a nation. I cannot agree with that. And unfortunately, that is what the Harper government tried to do with Bill C-24 and Bill C-51 to establish a two-tiered citizenship, much like that of a driver's license. We can't accept that. Increasing the age of a test of language from 14 to age 60-something is more a melodramatic idea than a practical one. It doesn't help citizenship, it doesn't strengthen it, it just forces hardship upon youngsters and upon seniors with no call for that. The prior age for the language testing was quite all right. It conformed to the idea that people who came to this country could fare for themselves and understand the language perfectly. And so the modification is more of a propaganda than it is practical. In the case of the right to appeal a sentence by the Immigration and Refugee Board to an applicant who has sought refuge in Canada, the idea that that appeal should not exist gives the law the character of where it came from, a dictatorship. It is not the typical legislation that would come from a democracy. And it sets Canada apart from other nations as an exception to the idea that people have the right to defend themselves or to appeal a process, especially when you consider that the members of the IRB are not lawyers or legislators. They are just members of the public who arrive at a decision that should, in many cases, be contested. I do believe that under the current Liberal government, modifications must be introduced urgently. Both the new laws, Bill C-24 and Bill C-51, do not protect and strengthen Canadian citizens. On the contrary, they weaken and diminish Canadian citizenship because there's a crucial misconception, a fatal flaw, and it is the idea that a politically elected bureaucrat can become a representative of the criminal justice system. That is false, and that is where their key misconception lay. We cannot afford to have a government who thinks that, yes, the Minister of Immigration can become a police officer and capture a criminal and judge him and send him abroad. We have a justice system that is trustworthy, that is there in place to punish criminals in our land, in Canada, and we've been doing so accordingly for over 200 years. So I'm sure we can continue doing that without a new system coming in place telling us that now it is the Minister of Immigration who has this capacity, and that there are two kinds of citizenships, the one for those who are born here and cannot be touched, and the one to be applicable or applied to those who were not born here and because of their crimes they can be deported. That sets Canada completely apart from other nations in the world in their contemplation of what the core value of citizenship is. It weakens our character and it weakens our nature. We cannot afford to have that. Canada is strong because its citizens are strong, because our citizenship is strong, and we must keep it like that. We cannot afford to give that to these people who consider that they can just take the Constitution and rip it in pieces without understanding what it really is all about.
And we're back here with Ed, and we got a couple more questions for our viewers because you're being quite interesting tonight. We wanted to know what are your thoughts about, I know the lawyer, a Toronto lawyer, Rocco Iulati, he challenged the law BC-24 and the Court of Appeal, right?
Well, I know there's a challenge going forward to the federal court. I don't think it's been heard yet. There was another challenge where a number of lawyers challenged the differences between treatment for people from for the designated countries of origin versus non-designated countries of origin, and to whether or not they had a right of an appeal to the Refugee Appeal Division. And the federal court there threw out the law, saying that it was a violation of the charter because it was treating people not equally. And they also, the Federal Court of Appeal refused the request of the Conservative government to maintain the law until they dealt with the appeal. So there was two strong signals from the federal court that because these laws treated people differently, that they were overturned. Now, I think the same principle could apply for citizenship, because we are creating different categories of people. We're treating people differently. And there are also issues like vagueness as to what is person committing treason, and some of this, how it conflicts with freedom of speech and democratic rights. So I think the federal court is going to take a very hard look at this, and I'm hopeful that some of these laws and these creation of different classes of people will be in fact declared illegal in violation of the equality provisions of the Charter.
Just to be clear here, most likely we're going to see Bill C-24 being challenged and contended. It most likely is going to go from the federal court, it goes usually to the Supreme Court of Justice, and that's where some changes can be made.
It goes to the federal court, to the Federal Court of Appeal, and then sometimes to the Supreme Court of Canada. That's where they resolve all the conflict, and that's the final level of the courts.
Now, the law BC-24 was created under Mr. Harper government, a conservative government, which has now been changed, and we have Mr. Trudeau and a liberal government, much younger, maybe much different or about the same. We don't know yet. Mm-hmm. But with that, do you think there could be some changes to this law?
I expect that there will be a number of changes. They've already made a fair number of changes to the immigration law and treatment of people already. For example, they've talked about, there's a law that was brought in that if your child had turned age 19, they no longer qualified as dependent. Trudeau has said he's going to get rid of that and go back to the old rule of 22, which we existed for over 30 years and worked quite fine. He's also, the Conservative government refused to give refugees health protection. Mm-hmm. A lot of the provinces stepped up, but now the federal government, the Minister of Citizenship and Immigration, John McCallum, has revoked that. And he said, we're going to give everybody coverage because actually it's cheaper to protect people than to have them show up in the emergency ward. And he's talked about doing many other things too. I haven't heard any statements about the citizenship law, but I suspect that there will be changes there as well.
And one other question. When I applied for citizenship years ago, it was a very easy process. Right now, I've been hearing that it's a little bit more complicated. Can you just tell us how the law changed all that?
It used to cost $200 to apply for citizenship. Okay. Now it costs $630 for an adult.
Wow, big difference.
I paid
yeah,
it.
And it went up to $200 to $400, now $630. Kids, I believe, are $400 for a dependent. So if you have a husband and wife and 4 kids, you're looking at a great deal of money.
Oh,
but the other factor is they require documentation that's very, very strong to prove residence in Canada, and they will quite often turn back the applications if they're very, very difficult. You need to send like about an inch or 2 of material.
I remember when I did it was like 3 or 4 pages.
No, yes. Now you have to get a proof of schooling, proof of employment, as well as before the law used to be 3 within 4 years, now it's 4 within 6 years, correct?
That's correct, yes. And you also have to spend 6 months of the last 4 years that you apply in Canada. Some of the other things that they've been talking about getting rid of was, they've made it much tougher, okay? There's a whole range of things that are done. And the liberals in the past have been usually much more friendly to immigrants and to immigration to the country. First of all, we need immigration. We don't have the birth rate that will sustain our population. So we have to bring in immigrants from other countries and skilled workers, and even workers that are not so skilled, but we need them to pick our food, to work in the factories, to work on our construction sites, okay? So Canada needs immigration. We have no choice.
Thank you so much, Ed, for the amazing time. I learned a lot. I didn't know a lot of things from today's meeting, and I know our viewers learn a lot. Please take notes, consult an immigration lawyer. And Canadian is a wonderful country, so I hope you all become Canadian citizens. Thank you so much, and it was a pleasure to have you here in Viva London.
Now, thank you so much, Ed, and we're going with Andres Yusma and some real estate tips.
Hi, Andres Yusma here with RE/MAX Advantage. I talk to homeowners on a daily basis, and one of the first questions they ask is, when is the best time to list my house for sale? There are many factors that can affect the time and price of the sale of your house, such as location, market conditions, and of course, time of year. Many believe the spring market is the best time to sell. But why would you put your house in the market when everyone else around you is also selling? The competition can be fierce, and it can take a long time to sell. 2015 was a very unique year where homes sold steadily since January. Don't delay the sale of your house. My name is Andres Yusma with RE/MAX Advantage, and remember, I'm here to help.
Well, we had a great show today, and I hope you learned the difference between first and second class citizenship.
Laura, it is very important to tell our viewers that our wardrobe has been provided by Elizabeth Noel. And Julieta, who did our hair and makeup today?
Miriam Nixon from El Encanto Salon and Spa.
Well, it's time to go now, but remember to watch us on Rogers TV London and follow us on Facebook at Viva London TV. Stay tuned, Viva London, because London has it all.
DJ Miami, hit us.
Que vinimos a gozar, no hay que